Hey, I'm Tabitha. I go to the Battersea site and I'm also on the worship team. So I'm a freelancer. I'm mainly a sculptor. That's how I pay my bills, sculpting for TV and film. But I'm also an artist. I love to paint things that bring glory to God.
I am a freelance filmmaker and I lost 100% of the work that I had lined up for the rest of the year as soon as we went into lockdown, which left me with no income for at least the remainder of the year.
The beginning of my lockdown experience was a little bit scary or low because I'm fairly sure that I had the coronavirus. I was basically in bed, couldn't move, so tired, definitely couldn't do anything productive. And then a couple of weeks ago, the church had a prayer segment for those who had lost their jobs due to COVID-19, which is me, and especially for freelancers as well. So we prayed for me, and it was just such a case of kind of giving it all to God and saying, we're completely out of control now. My finances are in your control and your will be done, please, God.
On the Sunday before lockdown, Viv gave this really timely word about generosity. She encouraged us, in times of scarcity, be generous. This inspired me to set up a WhatsApp group for creative freelancers to share information, ideas on how to survive in this time, to be generous with my connections and research into financial help. It was a bit of a risk because these guys are kind of my competition as well. But we ended up doing a survey of the group and found that, like me, most people had lost between 80 and 100% of their work overnight. We also asked people, what's the hardest thing about being a freelancer? And they said, uncertain future, unsettled lifestyle, isolation and loneliness, having to take full responsibility for projects, stress, feeling like an intruder sometimes, cash flow, self-motivation.
And just the last week has been incredible. Without even advertising on social media asking for jobs, I've been flooded with requests for commissions. I've probably had more requests for paintings to be commissioned in the last week than I normally get per year.
In actuality, the economy is about more than money. It's about how we care for each other and how we care for God's earth. I believe that some of the really important keys for unlocking the challenges ahead of us in these hard times are in the hands of freelancers and creatives. So, as you pray, please pray for mercy and provision, but also pray for courage, that we might use the gifts that we've already been given. Thank you for standing with us.
I also really want to encourage all my fellow freelancers out there. The last 2 years I've really had to eat, sleep, breathe, dream Matthew 6:26, which basically says that if God looks after the sparrow who does nothing that productive with his day and gives him clothes and food and water and the cool gift of flight, how much more is he going to look after you? I've had some really low times where I've started to believe the lies that I'm going to become hungry and thirsty and homeless and alone because of how low my finances have got, having to rely on God being freelance. But he's never done that for me. God always provides, and the fact that you're watching this means that he has provided for you a church, that also this church would not let you go hungry or thirsty or homeless or alone, and God definitely won't for you either. He will always provide.